This is Ndtv, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta in a still very grim Jaipur, just 72 hours after the serial blasts that shook the city and took so many lives. And with me, a very, I would say grim but yet confident Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje. Vasu, welcome to Walk the Talk.
Thank you, Shekhar.
I'm so grateful to you for finding the time. We know it's your first interview after the blasts and you are still sort of catching your breath.
But I think it was important that I also talk to you about it. It needs to instill that kind of confidence in the people of our state.
I mean, 72 hours later and wiser, how do you look back on this period?
First of all, ours is a very peace-loving state. So for something like this to happen in Rajasthan, it's a huge shock, not just to me, but I think to the ordinary citizen also. I would say here that we have responded magnificently to this, whether it's government, whether it's the people, whether it's the professionals. Everybody has risen to the occasion. 9 blasts, one after another. We have read about, but we actually saw this happen on the 13th, Tuesday. I'm happy to say that the response has been terrific in the sense I was in Jaipur when I heard about it. I was back on the Air Force flight by 11:30 in the night. By the time I got to hospital, which was about 12 o'clock, within 15 minutes of this happening, the people had been brought into hospital, the medical teams had swung into action. By 2 o'clock in the morning, all serious operations, almost 24 of them had been performed. And the situation was
and I believe most of your hospitals had more blood than they needed. Because
well,
people just queued up.
There was a lot of talk where people said that blood was not available, which is completely untrue.
Yeah.
People queued up. And let me tell you, there were young people, there were old people, and there were people of all communities.
And I believe a lot of the victims were just brought by bystanders.
No, I will say here that the bystanders certainly rose to the occasion, but the administration and the police were certainly not behind. Between them, they had these people in hospital within 15 or 20 minutes.
But there is,
the spirit is...
There is the rise of this new civic spirit in India.
Amazing,
People don't run away.
Amazing the way the spirit that I was able to see. It was quite extraordinary.
Two things, Vasu. One, people rise to the occasion and help. You've seen that now in calamities, rail accidents. That people now come, they rally around local people, they help. And the second, the basic instinct of India's populated areas in the past of rioting, bandh, protest, targeting somebody on suspicion. Not a whimper of that in your state.
Look, we took a great deal of care over this, Shekhar, because apart from the medical part of it, the next morning, those people, cremations and all that took place. Public representatives, elected representatives, they were all present at the Anteshtis. And the amount of compensation was given by the ministers within hours of that in a special visit to each of their homes. So each of the homes where they lost somebody or people were there to hold their hands. And apart from that, we imposed curfew at 9 o'clock in the morning.
And I believe you made sure there were no signs of blotches of blood.
I saw to it that before 7 o'clock in the morning, before the people hit the streets, the blood was washed away. Everything was cleared away after the forensic people had taken whatever they had to take. Everything was cleared so that it looked normal and there was no angst in the people who would come out. If they saw this, there would be.
But there was a call for bandh, which, from people sort of related to your party, Vishwa Hindu Parishad. But it's obvious that your party distanced themselves from it.
We made it very clear that there was going to be a curfew. And we called it, in fact, across the state that there would be a holiday that would coincide with this, and also a mourning, state mourning for the people that passed away. So there was no call for any of this. And people were, I've worked very well with this. We saw to it that the families got taken care of. There were ministers sitting round the clock in the hospital. Each hospital had rosters of ministers. so that if there was anybody who was lost or had a problem, they could attach them.
Percentage of Muslim population in your state is about the same as in Gujarat, which is in your neighborhood, and many would have thought that maybe a repeat would happen. Now, the majority would turn against the minority to take revenge or to teach them a lesson.
Shekhar, I have to say that every city has its own character and responds in its own special way. There is no gainsaying, there's no saying that because Gujarat responded in a particular fashion or Maharashtra responded in a particular fashion, that Rajasthan would also respond in that fashion. People would have taken care, and we took care, that no opportunity would arise where something like this could happen. So we did take care for that. And the people also rose to
And
the
you would say
occasion.
Muslims should rest assured that they will be safe.
Look,
there
the
will be no
safety and
reprisals.
security of my people, of castes, of creeds, of religions, is the responsibility of this government and also of its people. And we will rise to that occasion.
Tell me, Vasu, how was the news broken to you? Where were you and what happened?
I happened to be in Jaipur at the time, and it was at some meetings that I had attended. When I came back from that meeting, they told me there had been one blast.
Right.
And then in quick succession, in half an hour, there were 8 more blasts. And I could not have sat there. Luckily, it was an Air Force station.
Right.
And I was able to requisition an Air Force
Right.
helicopter and bring a medical team from Jodhpur and come here. Because at that time, they required more doctors, particularly in the field
because
of...
sitting in Rajasthan, you are mentally not prepared for it. In Bombay, in Delhi, we are prepared for it. In Rajasthan, you are not, because you've never seen terrorism.
No, we were not prepared for it, but we rose. We were very quick with the
Were
responses.
there any warnings of any kind?
No, there were
Formally,
not
informally?
any warnings, and I must actually thank Mr. Narayanan,
The National Security
the National
Advisor.
Security Advisor, and Mr. Raman, who have both written some
Former
brilliant
PFO,
articles
yes.
about it, where they have made very clear that we are not prepared for this kind of pan-Indian terrorism that is taking place. It's not happening just in my state.
But there is some suggestion that there was a warning from Home Ministry some time back.
Well, in Mr. Narayanan's article, it's been made very clear that we were not prepared for it, and neither did anyone have any particular information that something like this would happen.
But what kind of response have you had from the center since this happened?
Well, we've had a conversation with the Prime Minister, a conversation with the Home Minister. I have noted Mr. Jaiswal's article in the papers and in the press conference where he said that he had warned us, which I'm afraid is not true. And the visit of
But
Mrs. Gandhi.
Initially, he said that he doesn't even know what's happened. He's only seen it on the media.
Well, and then after that he went on to say that he had mentioned it to us.
Right.
And now the National Security Advisor has made very clear that we had no information about any of this. So I think that the time has come for us to realize that we cannot have knee-jerk reactions to things like this. Since it is pan-Indian, it's absolutely imperative that the Prime Minister call an emergency meeting for internal security of the states. Call the Chief Ministers, discuss with the Chief Ministers what the roadmap should be, so that we work together to create a situation that will take care of this.
Many of the NDA chief ministers have been demanding this. Do you see any reason why the Prime Minister should not be doing it? He has not done it.
I think that it is the logical step to take, because, I mean, after you repealed laws like the POTA, you don't really have anything strong in your hands to deal with this. You see the kind of flip-flop you do over people like Afzal Guru. There is no strong action where you strike terror into the heart of the terrorist. What we see here, obviously there's some similarity between what we've seen in Jaipur, what we've seen in UP, that is the
Hyderabad.
the three districts,
Right.
Faizabad,
Right.
Varanasi and Lucknow, and Malegaon. They all have something in common. And Ajmer and Hyderabad have something in common. So obviously it's not a one-off that is happening here. It's something that's happening across the country, and for that we need to sit down and plan. This is actually a war.
What you faced here is a serious terrorist attack. It's not some amateurs using crude devices, local explosives.
It's a sophisticated terrorist attack by some, I would imagine, international gang that is operating across our country. And the device itself was so sophisticated. And they have access to every sophisticated manner of communication. They're on the web, they're on the IT, they're emailing each other, their weapons are sophisticated, their method of dealing is sophisticated, and we are archaic in our response.
You talk about all this sophistication. Does it involve the dreaded three-letter word, RDX?
I would say it involves it all. Everything is involved in this. The latest type of ammunitions, the latest type of weapons.
And why do you say we are so archaic?
We're archaic because, I mean, we have not, most states, I believe, would not even have cells which are dealing with terrorism at that rate.
Do you have them?
We've,
You are
in
a border
fact,
state?
we are a border state, and I'm just saying that whether the center involves itself with us or not, we are going for an emergency meeting and setting up a special task force in which I want to invite people who are experts on terrorism. And by the 19th itself, we will have our first meeting.
Also, this committee you are setting up of experts on how to deal with terrorism is unconventional. Normally, wouldn't you have just gone to the Home Ministry and Government of India and said, look, you've got the IB, RAW, CBI, etc., 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 all the impressive acronyms of Delhi, of the security establishment, come and help us. Are you going beyond them to seek help? And is there a reason for that?
You know, this kind of thing has been repeated in NDC meetings and security meetings, which they have maybe once in the year. By us, letters have been written by us, but I really believe that we can't afford to wait anymore. The response time is so slow, and we can't afford it. Our people can't afford it. I'll give you an example. For example, on the deportation and of the Bangladeshi nationals that are finding their way into Rajasthan, we've written letters to them many, many times. We got a response in June. We wrote to them in June 2007 to say, look, we need to do something about this. We got a reply back from them to say that, well, you know, why don't you just collect them and put them into transit camp somewhere?
You mean collect all the Bangladeshis in your
collect
state
them and put them into a transit
camp?
camp.
Did they wrote to you?
Look after them. Yes.
They formally wrote to you?
They wrote to us.
The Home Ministry?
Yes. To say you go ahead.
You can set up your own Guantanamo Bay.
Something like that. But it's much more serious than that.
How can how can you quarantine so many thousands of people?
This is the question that I'm asking.
The center, the Home Ministry has formally written to you that if you think they're illegal Bangladeshis, you can round them
Kindly round them up
and put them in
a transit camp,
and put them in a transit camp?
Yes.
And you feed them there. And what happens after you have them in the transit camp?
We don't have an idea because we've been going on with this since June 2007.
But under what law can you detain people in a transit camp? I mean, this is exactly what George Bush has done with his suspects around the world.
We're asking the same question.
But why the focus on Bangladeshis?
Because there is a lot of illegal activity that has taken place there. And this is not known.
Are you linking them with the blasts last week, this week?
Well, I mean, the email that was sent was by the Hujis. And this is an organization that actually works out of Bangladesh. Of course, it has branches all across our country also. And they have, as I said, similarities have taken place between 2 or 3 states. So it's there for everybody to see. Now, the case has not been cracked, so one can't say for sure. But I mean, you can see by the email that definitely there is an involvement from people outside.